Hey there YouTube, welcome back to the channel. Today we're doing a video back on topic, back on the GSX. I actually got a little package in the mail this morning. It's sitting right there by my driver's side front tire. It's a pack of two 12-inch radiator slim fans. We're going to be taking out the old rusty fan shroud and beat up fans that we've got slapped against that stock radiator, and we're going to be rewiring and installing these two new slim fans in preparation for our 16G and front mount intercooler install. This is going to free up some definitely needed space. It's something you're probably going to have to do if you're doing any of these upgrades to your 2G Eclipse or your 1G Eclipse or Talon or whatever you're driving, the DSM of your choice. These fans are going to cut about, I'd say, 2.5 inches space width-wise from behind the radiator. The fans, I think they are maxed out at 2.5 inches, so they're really thin. They're rated for a pretty good high CFM, so these should do the job of keeping the radiator cool, keeping the engine cool, running when the air conditioning's on. We're going to test them out afterwards and make sure it's all good to go, but this is going to show you guys how to rip your old crappy radiator fans out and give yourself some space. It's going to be fun, so let's get right into it. Alright guys, so it is a balmy 94 degrees out here in upstate New York, so forgive me if this video drags on or I drone on or anything like that, because God, it's warm. So as you can see, looking straight down, we've got our old radiator fan system in here. There's a couple of things that we've recently attached to it, like down here these two zip ties are holding on our boost reference line. It's going over to the manual boost controller. On this side, tucked back out of the way with these two zip ties, is our O2 sensor wiring that runs straight down into the downpipe. A lot of stuff has to come out for this. We're gonna use one of those little push through, the little push pin style, radiator mount systems. They're the plastic pieces that you push through the fins of your radiator very carefully with a couple of pieces of foam, and those will hold our new fans to the back of the radiator here in place of our old fans. Now, with that being said, if you notice, this is our plug for our fan, and the new fans that we got, which I'll pull out in just a second, only have two wires, a positive and a ground. They can be run in pusher or polar setup, and we're going to hook them up so they're going to be pulling air through this radiator. But here we have 4 wires. Now, if you're not familiar with this, your car actually has a high and a low speed circuit, relay that runs your radiator fans. If you'll get in your car and you turn it on, you're driving, and all of a sudden you hear your fans kick on, but you turn the air conditioner on and they kick up to an even higher speed, that's your low and your high relay doing the work, and that's going to help control your engine, keep it nice and cool. You don't want to overheat out here. So we're obviously going to be removing our upper radiator hose here, draining the coolant out, and instead of trying to do this job in this tiny little allotted space right here to get these pins mounted, we're actually going to be disconnecting our radiator brackets here and right here. And once the coolant is drained and we have everything off the back here and the fans unplugged from our 2 plugs here, we're going to snip off the wires right off the back of the fan motor, and I'm going to show you guys how to wire them in so that your fans will kick on whether your engine's calling for the low or high speed fan circuit to run. And we're going to reinstall everything and hopefully get it right the first time. But like I said, I'm not making any promises when it's 94 degrees out. It is toasty. I feel so sorry for you guys out in Arizona. This is unbearable. But anyway, it must be done. Moving forward. Okay guys, so now that we're here, ready to drain our radiator, if you come over here on your driver's side and you look all the way down on the bottom of this right side of your radiator, there should be a little Pepcock drain. So we're going to take our oil pan, which is all freshly wiped out and cleaned out because we will be reusing our coolant, and we're going to slide that right under the front here, open that valve up, and start draining all the antifreeze out of this radiator so we can take her out. Alright, if you look on the bottom of your radiator, that white plastic valve right there, where are we at? right there, that's your drain. So you're gonna wanna unscrew that counterclockwise, and that should start letting the coolant drain out. And it'll start slow until you pop your radiator cap off, and then it'll start to really come out of there. And this takes the longest out of everything, so we're gonna start doing that right now. All right, we've got that opened up, and you can see right down there a little bit has started to come out. Let's see, we're gonna pop the radiator cap. There we go. We're gonna let that go for a little while until all the antifreeze is drained out. And one thing is when you're refilling your coolant, if you're going to be reusing it, I like to use just a regular funnel, and I'll throw a coffee filter down in here in case any junk falls into the pan, or you know, whatever foreign matter that falls into your pan while it's sitting underneath your car or whatever. You don't want that going back into your coolant system, clogging something up. So you're definitely gonna want to grab your oil pan, your funnel, a couple of filters, just so you can keep everything nice. So while that's draining, we're gonna actually start taking off our top mounts, which are two 12 millimeters. There's one on either side that you have to take off, and these are just holding your radiator in place. We're gonna disconnect our upper radiator hose in a few minutes once this starts to drain out a little bit more and you can't feel the coolant sloshing around in there. And we also have to take off all of our 10 millimeter bolts that are holding our fan shroud on. We have to cut our couple of zip ties here and here, holding the O2 harness on, and down below we're gonna take out all of our 10 mils. So let's get started on that. Well, as most 20-plus-year-old bolts do, we lost the heads on these two over here, and so far, one of them over here. I tried so carefully not to have this happen, but obviously you can see every single nut on the front of this vehicle and bolt has got a little bit of rust on it. Some are worse for wear than others. Looks like I'm going to be doing a little bit of a extraction before we move on, so stay tuned, I'll be right back. Alright guys, so now that we've gotten, unfortunately, 3 out of our 4 bolts broke off, we've gotten our little radiator straps that mount right here pulled off. I'm going to try to clean these up a little bit. Before we go any further, we're going to pull the antifreeze out from under here. And it's already got some pretty little floaters in it from this amazing tree that I'm parked above. I'm parked on top of a tree that I'm parked under. So next step is get that out of the way and hopefully avoid any more stuff falling in it. And we are going to unplug this harness here, disconnect a couple of zip ties, and unplug our second harness, which is right down here behind the upper radiator hose. We can get the rest of these nuts pulled off the bottom side here. And don't be afraid if you break your little 10 mils that are holding on your fan shroud if you're doing this, because we're just going to end up they're just going to end up getting replaced. So it looks like right here's the one that came out of this hole right here. So we have to extract probably, what do you say, 1/2 inch of busted bolt. It's going to be fun, but let's move on with this project and get her done. Alright guys, we got our radiator out. We had to disconnect the upper and lower hoses, and I didn't know this, but on these 2G cars there is, it looks like brake lines maybe, or some sort of line. Maybe it's an oil line, I'm not sure what this is. It's running right across the front here. There's a bracket here and a bracket here. They're right on the bottom of where the radiator mounts, and they are two 10 millimeter bolts. So Now we have one stubborn 10 mil to take out here, and we're gonna start installing our new fans. Should be fun. All right guys, now that we've got our stock radiator, which we're going to reuse, and our radiator fans pulled out, we are going to be snipping off the pigtail here, the harness that's going to it. And like I said earlier, if you notice, there is 4 wires, and I'll show you the arrangement that you need to connect these in. But we want to keep this factory plug so we can connect and disconnect our new fans if need be to pull the radiator assembly back out with a hell of a lot more ease than we just went through here. So we're going to cut this about, say, 3 inches away from where the fan motor is, just so that these are still usable. They both work. They're just obviously falling apart and rusty. So we're going to do the same thing over here, and it's very important not to mix these up. So we're going to go one at a time. This thicker fan, as you can tell, is the one for the passenger side. So we're going to start there. We're going to wire up the passenger side radiator fan first, and then we're going to jump over and do the driver's side. This is going to be pretty simple, pretty straightforward. You're just going to need some butt connectors, maybe some electrical tape, heat shrink, whatever you normally use when you're doing some wiring, but we're going to snip these off real fast and start putting it all together. Okay guys, so we're in the back of the car here with my little makeshift workstation. If you'll notice, on our new fan, we have a 2-wire bolt connector setup, and on this, again, we have 4 wires. So I'm going to snip this, and I'm going to show you what ones you have to join together. It is a little windy. Again, I apologize. Right here is our factory passenger side pigtail. And if you'll notice, I stripped and connected the positive wires, which are the blue and the green, and the negative, which are the yellow and the black. Now, doing this connection between the blue and the green, it's going to allow the AC and ECU to still have complete control over whether or not the fans run from the low speed side or the high speed side. I don't know if these fans are actually going to have 2 separate speeds depending on which one's engaged or not, or which one's running. But we'll check it out. As long as they both turn on, I'm pretty sure that this will be sufficient cooling compared to the old fans. So now what you do is you take your positive, which is your blue and green, and you connect it to your new fan, which the blue wire in this case is the positive and the black is the negative. Now, depending on which way you're setting these up for pusher or polar, if you want this to be a puller fan, blue is your positive, black is your negative. If you want this to be a pusher fan, you just reverse that. So your positive will go to black and your ground will go to blue. And most of these fans do offer pusher or puller setup, so that's how you do it. So what we're going to do next is twist all these connections together, or butt connect them, I'm not sure what I got yet, and we're going to cover it up with heat shrink, make sure it's nice and secure, and then wrap this up with electrical tape so it doesn't get hurt by the elements. Then we're going to move on to the driver's side fan. Alright, so we just did a quick and dirty solder job. Everything is nice and connected good, and we're going to wrap this up with some electrical tape and then wrap the whole loom of wires together, make sure it's nice and secure, and move on to the other fan. Alright, so after soldering these connections back together and putting a little electrical tape on her, we still maintained the factory plug, and we got a nice little run of wire, so we should have enough room on the passenger side fan to plug this in without any issues. So let's move over to the driver's side fan, and I'll show you what wires you got to connect. Clip the pigtail off the driver's side here. I left about 3 inches or so we can use these fans again if ever possible or necessary. And what you're left with is a set of 4 wires again. Now you're going to see a black wire with a white stripe, a solid black wire, a blue wire with a solid blue wire, and a blue wire with a black stripe. Now, as you can tell, your 2 blue wires, blue with a black stripe and solid blue, get twisted together. Black with a white stripe and black get twisted together. And the blue is going to be your positive, and the black is going to be your negative. We're going to connect these right over here to our already stripped wires, right there. I'm going to do a quick solder, and we're going to get ready to mount these to the radiator. Alright, I got this driver's side fan all insulated. We got a nice long piece of harness left here so we can plug it in wherever we so choose to mount the plug to keep it out of the way. Now we're going to go up front and I'm going to show you how to mount these fans to the back of your radiator, and we're going to reinstall. So now we're back up front here. We've got our two freshly wired up fans ready to go back on the radiator as a motorcycle rips by. These are the kits we're going to use. It comes with 8 little squares of black foam, and these long pieces, you basically line these up. Let me pull one out of here and show you. You put the radiator fan on the radiator where you want it. So one's going to be on the right, one's going to be on the left. Then the holes that are on the outside edge of the fan, you press these carefully through the fins of your radiator with a piece of that foam on the bottom right here to make sure that you don't damage your radiator, obviously. And there's a little circle cap. It's kind of like a zip tie. You put one of those pieces of foam on this and you press it on through the back side of the radiator and you clip off the excess wire sticking through. And it's pretty straightforward, so I'm going to throw you guys off to the side, get these things mounted up, and then we're going to get this thing thrown back in the car. So we now have our fans mounted, and I just wanted to show you guys the other side here. All I did was put one of the squares down first, and then they have those circles that lock down everything in between the, it's foam on this side, foam on the other side. And that's to keep you from damaging any of your radiator fins. You don't want to hurt any of this. So what I'm going to do next is clip off the excess on all of these, and all we're going to be left with is a bunch of little squares, little black squares on the front side of the radiator. Then we can throw this thing back in. Skipped a step here. I didn't show you how I did it, but I'm sure you have all come into the path of a busted nut or bolt and had to dig it back out. So I used my set of easy outs here, and I cleaned out the old snapped off bolts that were here and over here on the radiator mounts. So basically everything's done here. We've got all the bolt holes ready to go again. Our hoses are on. We've got our fans right here mounted up and ready to roll. So what we're going to do next is I'm actually going to throw you guys off to the side. It's starting to get a little late here. I'm going to reconnect everything. Do not forget about your two 10mm on these solid lines that go to the back of the bottom of the radiator. But we're going to connect everything up. I'm going to show you where to plug it all in and what it looks like as a final finished product. We're going to start the car up, let it get up to operating temperature after we replace the coolant, and check them out once they kick on. So let's get into it. Okay guys, we now have the car put back together. I'll show you in just a second where I ran all the wiring and hit it. Right now is a very crucial point in this whole process. You're going to want to make sure you start your vehicle, turn your heat all the way on full blast. And what we're doing here is replacing the coolant. I already poured what I saved back into the engine, and now I'm just adding some water. It was before it wasn't the pre-mixed stuff, it was just the regular antifreeze gallon. So I mixed it before. I'm going to add a little bit more water because I've made it a little bit on the rich side. It wasn't quite 50-50. So we're going to let this thing warm up to operating temperature, wait for the fans to kick on a couple of times, and test them once we turn the air conditioning on. And most importantly is make sure you do not have any air bubbles trapped in your coolant system. You want to keep adding it until the engine stops taking it. I just went in and I hit the air conditioning switch once, and both fans kicked right on immediately, so we know that they're working. The engine's still warming up. I'm just waiting for them to kick on by themselves. I just wanted to show you. Over here is the factory plug. I routed it over into the corner and hit it. The oxygen sensor, I just zip tied it to the back of one of the holes on each one of these two new fans and retained somewhat of the factory location for the driver's side fan. This is the plug here. It's just zip tied to one of the free bolt holes. I got to replace this hardware for the upper radiator mount brackets tomorrow. The hardware stores are unfortunately closed right now, but as you can see, the coolant level is staying nice and high. I've been squeezing the upper hose, making sure to burp it every couple of minutes, and yeah, that's basically it. So you can see a couple of air bubbles pop out from time to time while she's warming up. That's good. But now we have all this free space in here between the engine and the radiator. Verify that you have no leaks during this process. Let it warm up and set it idle for a little while. Make sure your fans are kicking on. Keep an eye on your needle on the dashboard. It helps if you have an extra set of eyes to sit in the car and watch things for you. But that's basically it, folks. This video took quite a little while because of some of the rust issues that I encountered and breaking off a couple of bolts. But if you're doing this at home, these are a couple of 12-inch Amazon radiator fans, and I saw some great reviews on them. I didn't hear anything bad about these ones. They say they push 1850 CFM a piece. I don't believe those numbers, but so far they seem to be doing all right. We're gonna let the car warm up, like I said, and test them out for a little bit. But I'll drop a link down below for your own 12-inch radiator fans if you'd like to do this. We are now one step closer to getting our 16G turbo, our J-pipe, and our front mount system installed now that we have the room to do it. So if you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up down below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and like always, we will see you on the next episode of today's project guide. Thanks for watching.